Picture this. A lion is walking across the African savanna, hungry, tired, and right in front of it is a dead zebra. No chase, no fight, no risk of getting kicked in the skull by a set of hooves that could kill it in one hit. Just free food, lying right there, and the lion sniffs it, circles it once, and walks away. Now, if you grew up watching nature documentaries, this probably doesn't surprise you, because we've all been taught the same thing. Real predators only eat what they kill. Lions are noble hunters. Eating dead stuff is what the lesser animals do, the vultures, the hyenas. But here's the problem. That's not really true. And once you understand why it's not true, you're going to look at predators, and honestly at nature itself, in a totally different way. So stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand the split-second calculation behind one of nature's strangest decisions. Eat or walk away. Let's start simple. Lions don't just hunt. They also scavenge, sometimes taking full advantage of a kill that another animal already made, or an animal that simply died on its own. And lions aren't the exception. Wolves, coyotes, bears, mountain lions, most large predators will eat meat they didn't kill when the opportunity is there. So the real question was never, why don't predators eat dead animals? The real question is, why do they sometimes refuse a specific dead animal, even when they're hungry? And here's the thing, it's not random. There's a clue predators seem to check before they ever take a bite. What kind of animal died? Here's something genuinely strange that scientists have documented. Predators avoid eating other predators. Researchers ran an experiment. They placed dead herbivores like sheep and dead carnivores like foxes and dogs out in the wild and filmed what happened. Scavengers found both kinds of carcasses just fine. But something interesting showed up in the footage. The herbivore carcasses got eaten a lot more. The carnivore carcasses barely got touched. So why would a meal be a meal, unless it used to be a predator itself? Here's the leading explanation. Carnivore carcasses can carry parasites and pathogens that are specifically adapted to living inside other carnivores. The same way some human diseases only spread between humans, not between humans and, say, deer. A herbivore's body usually isn't a useful host for those. A fellow predator's body is. So a meal from a dead predator may simply be a riskier bet than a meal from a dead herbivore. And over a long evolutionary timeline, animals that were a little more cautious around that kind of carcass may have quietly come out ahead generation after generation. But that's not the only thing being checked. Because even a safe species can still fail the test if it's been dead too long, or if the wrong company shows up. Which means, before a predator even takes a bite, it's already asking a question most of us never think about. What did this animal used to eat? But even a perfectly healthy carcass, from a perfectly harmless animal, can still be a terrible meal, if someone bigger thinks it's theirs. A dead animal in the wild isn't a secret. Smell travels, and a carcass basically works like a dinner bell for every predator in the area. So imagine you're a coyote, or a solitary mountain lion. You find a fresh kill. Great. But you also know wolves might not be far. And wolves don't share. They've been known to kill coyotes just for scavenging their kills. In Scandinavia, researchers used camera traps to study what happens at wolf-killed carcasses. And wolverines, much smaller predators, showed up at these kills constantly, feeding heavily off wolf leftovers. But it wasn't a simple story of wait for the coast to be clear. The relationship was more of a constant balancing act. Wolverines needed those calories badly enough to take real risks, while still trying to avoid a fight they couldn't win. That's the pattern here. It's not that the food is bad. It's that showing up to eat it might put you face to face with something that could kill you. And in the wild, no meal is worth that. So suppose nobody else is coming. No wolves. No lions. No rival in sight. Is the carcass finally completely safe? Not necessarily. Once an animal dies, it doesn't just sit there. Bacteria immediately start breaking it down. And as they do, they release the compounds responsible for that unmistakable rotting smell. At first, that smell can actually draw scavengers in. It says, there's food here. But the longer decomposition goes on, the more those bacteria can produce genuine toxins, byproducts that, in high enough concentrations, can make an animal seriously sick. So a predator's nose isn't just picking up yum or gross. It's reading a kind of chemical timestamp on the meat. And here's the fascinating part. That timestamp doesn't mean the same thing to every predator. Different scavengers have very different physiological tolerances. Some species, like hyenas and crocodilians, are remarkably well-suited to handling carcasses that would be far riskier for other predators to eat. Fresh carcass and old carcass are basically two different meals, and not every predator's body is built to handle the second one. Which raises the next question. Say the meat is safe. Say it hasn't gone bad. Is that finally enough for a predator to sit down and eat? Not always. Every predator is running a kind of constant silent math problem. How much energy will I actually get from this versus how much energy or risk will it cost me to get it? There's a great real example of this from Patagonia. Researchers tracked 9 mountain lions, pumas, across more than 400 kill sites, and they found that Andean condors, these massive scavenging birds, would swarm a puma's kill so fast and in such large numbers that the puma would lose a significant chunk of its meal in a single night. The puma isn't deciding whether the meat still tastes good. It's deciding whether staying and defending this specific carcass is actually worth it, or whether it's more efficient to just go make a new kill instead. And that's exactly what the data showed. Those pumas ended up hunting noticeably more often than pumas living in places without condors around. The scavengers were quietly changing the economics of being a predator. So sometimes rejection has nothing to do with danger, and nothing to do with decay. It's simply not profitable anymore. And sometimes, after all that calculation, the answer is even simpler than any of this. And sometimes the answer really is that simple. The predator isn't hungry. A large enough meal can keep it satisfied for a day or more, so even perfectly good food nearby just gets ignored. But that's the easy explanation. Because a predator can be hungry, genuinely hungry, and still walk away. Which brings us back to where we started. That lion. That dead zebra. The lion doesn't look at it and just think, food. It sees information. How fresh is it? Who might have killed it? And are they still close by? Has this animal been lying here long enough for decay to turn it dangerous? Is there anything about the way it died that looks wrong? And underneath all of that, one final question. Is this meal actually worth the risk? If the answers check out, the lion eats. No hesitation. If they don't, it walks away. From free food. Because out here, free never means safe. It just means untested. So here's the real takeaway. Predators aren't rejecting dead meat because they're too proud to eat it. That whole noble hunter who'd rather starve than scavenge idea, that's more of a documentary myth than a documented fact. What's actually happening is way more interesting. Every time a predator approaches a carcass, its senses are giving it information. What died? Who's nearby? How long it's been there? Whether the meal is worth the risk. It's not laziness. It's not disgust. It's a decision being made in real time using its senses, experience, and instincts, shaped by generations of animals that survived by making better choices and paid the price when they didn't. If you want to understand the strange decisions animals make every single day, hit subscribe, because nature gets a lot weirder the closer you look. I'll see you in the next one.